So tip number 4 is related to tip number 3. You want to keep your abs in check. Keep the waistline nice and tight. This will give you the illusion of having bigger. All right, so this video is going to talk a little bit about aesthetics. I see a lot of guys hit me up at the gym, especially the younger guys. You know, I'm 50 years old, but you'll see the 20-year-olds, they'll hit me up and say, hey bro, you look aesthetic. What do I need to do to have a similar type body? One of the things I noticed that a lot of guys do nowadays, a lot of the younger guys, is that they fail to consider the effectiveness of certain exercises. They seem to do these programs that they download from TikTok or Instagram, and they don't have a clear vision. They don't have a game plan. You know, if you want to have an aesthetic physique, you got to understand what that entails. Wide shoulders, high chest, trim waist. A lot of guys don't even train abs properly, and some of them don't even train abs, period. And most guys skip leg day. All right, so in this video, I want to talk about a few pointers that you can follow, easy to follow, that you can get your body headed into the right direction and avoid some key pitfalls that I see a lot of guys doing. First thing, if you have a big waist, why would you do exercises that enhances that big waist? I remember many years ago, I've always had an aesthetic physique, right? Small waist, wide shoulders, that classic V-taper. One of the things that messed that up for me was doing heavy squats, especially going past parallel, ass to the grass type thing, you know? When you start hitting 3 or 4 plates on the back squats and you're going all the way down, you're going to engage some of those core muscles, the abs, the obliques, all that kind of stuff here is going to expand because you need that force to push yourself up. So one of the things I started to do after noticing that deep squats were thickening my waist, which is not what you want, right? That's not an aesthetic characteristic. What you want to do is perhaps come down to maybe parallel or maybe just above parallel and go back up. You're going to target your quads, you're going to target your glutes, but you're also going to take a lot of that core resistance, that core activation out of the movement, because coming out of the pit, coming out of that bottom position, you kind of engage a lot of those abdominal muscles, which in time, especially when you have 405 pounds on your traps, is going to expand your waist. So that's one of the first things I'd recommend avoid doing. Now, the second point for developing an aesthetic physique would be to develop the shoulders. Not only the shoulders, but also the back. They kind of work together. If you want to get that sort of look that has you coming out from here to here, you need 2 components. Shoulder width, right? And also back width, you know, so that when you turn to the back, you have that nice V taper and it's very obvious. Now, one of the key features with developing round shoulders is to target the 3 heads, the front, the lateral, and the rear. I think a lot of guys, especially the younger guys in the 20s and 30s, they completely skip the rear delts. I rarely see a guy hitting the rear delts. And so what happens is that when they go to the side, they kind of disappear because they lack the development of the rear delt. So start targeting your rear delts. All right, so a number 3 tip for developing an aesthetic physique is start hitting your abs on a regular basis. Whether you're cutting, whether you are in the middle of a bulk and you have 20-25% body fat, you can always target your abs, even if they're not visible. Not only will a strong abdominal wall help you when you're doing things like row or squats or any exercise, it's just a good idea to do it so that when you do cut, you actually have some abs that are there. They're always there, right? Just because you can't see them, just because they're a layer of fat covering them, doesn't mean you ignore it and say, oh, well, I'm gonna hit up abs when I start cutting in 6 months from now. No, you hit abs to a moderate degree. You don't have to go all out. Let's say you're doing a cut, but you have to target them all the time. Maybe twice a week, you could do 2 exercises and make sure that you have them in your program. And you do this so that your waistline doesn't get too big, irregardless of the fat content you have on your body. So tip number 4 is related to tip number 3. You want to keep your abs in check. Keep the waistline nice and tight. This will give you the illusion of having bigger legs. When your waistline is trim, it gives the illusion of having bigger legs. So I always recommend you train legs. You always hit legs. You hit them as hard as possible. They're a hard muscle to develop, especially as you age. But one of the tricks that I like to use, and a lot of guys who've been doing this for a long time, is use the visual cue. You can trim your waist. It's easier to trim your waist than to add significant size to your legs. Way easier to keep this nice and tight and then have that sweep with your quads. It looks a whole lot more pronounced if your waist is like this and your quad sweep is like this versus having a thick waist and then having the quad sweep match with the waist. It just doesn't look aesthetically pleasing. So remember, it's like an hourglass physique. You want to keep the waistline nice and tight, and of course develop the legs. Tip number 5 for an aesthetic physique: try to do cardio throughout the year. You can do it twice, maybe 3 times a week, even when you're on a bulk, right? Doing 2-3 cardio sessions a week is not going to ruin your bulk, and you're not going to fizzle away and burn muscle. That's all nonsense. Keep the cardio in your program. This will help you so that when you do commit to a cut further down the line, you'll be able to do so a whole lot easier because you would have done cardio consistently throughout the year. So that now that it's time to really take cardio to another level, start doing 25-30 minutes at a higher intensity, you got this because you've been doing cardio consistently. So don't give up on the cardio, and don't just think, oh, because I'm on a bulk now, I'm going to forget doing cardio. So do these things, these 5 tips that I've mentioned. Let me know how it goes for you. If you want to see some more of this kind of stuff, subscribe to the channel. With that said, love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Leave a comment, by the way. Bye for now.